And certainly exercise has made a big difference for Sam and me.
Well, and I think we can directly tie it to like a literary pursuit too. You could do the Jane Austen method, which is taking long walks in the country, getting your petticoat muddy, the contra dancing, like the country dancing sort of a thing. That's a very invigorating, good for the heart. I think we could do a whole course on the Jane Austen diet. This could be the next big thing.
This is The Green Writer
With SD Smith
and Brett Harris.
Brett, we are back with another dope quotation. This is kind of part two. We're kind of extending the last episode a little bit, and we're going to talk more about that. But I ended with sharing this quotation, which is attributed to John Dryden, the poet. And we're not sure about so don't be double check. Well, double check us actually. Let us know where it actually comes from if you can figure it out. We couldn't. But we were
I
only
didn't
using.
try, so if we're wrong, it's all Sam's fault. I actually didn't try to double check this quote, so
I was using the royal we. Um, as for me as a in the kingdom, not the queendom, the kingdom. But so the quotation is: we first make our habits, and then our habits make us. We first make our habits, and then our habits make us. And I love the emphasis of that because it's all about like the front foot. It's all about me. We're trying to do something, and we have agency. We often think about, this is just like the pattern of life that I've gotten into, and it will. I mean, we will develop a pattern of life. We will develop habits. We already have them. We have them all over the place in our lives. Spiritual, health, physical, creative, all these kinds of areas. But it's just kind of like they are happening, and I love the idea of us happening to the habits, and I feel like that's so important.
Hmm. Can you repeat that John Dryden quotation again for us, Sam?
Sure. And if it is a John Dryden quotation, and it is, we first make our habits and then our habits make us.
Yeah, that wasn't written by a poet because it doesn't rhyme.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
yeah.
I
So
think
yeah,
that's one of the rules.
that's
So
one of the rules
yeah,
that
yeah.
I learned about poetry. Um, yeah, so I love this quotation, and I love your emphasis on we have agency, and I think for young writers in particular, one of the things that's interesting is that as a young person, you you have both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is you actually have less control over your life than you will have later as an adult to shape your environment, to shape your habits and routines, because you are probably part of a family and your family has routines and habits, and your parents are shaping a lot of that for you and making a lot of decisions, and have the resources, the financial resources to you know invest or not invest into different things. And so there's a challenge of, as a young person, you don't have as much control over your environment, but then you also have this opportunity, which is, as a young person, you don't usually have as many other obligations and responsibilities on your plate. So you actually often have more freedom to experiment and try things and practice different habits and see what works for you. So it's both a challenge and an opportunity. And I think our topic of discussion today is really going to dive into non-writing habits again. Like that was what we started with in our last episode, but non-writing habits specifically about taking care of our physical bodies. The scripture says our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit. And the we want to take care of our bodies because it matters. Our bodies are valuable, but also because our bodies, our biology, are supporting us in everything we do. And so when we take poor care of them, that's going to impact our ability to write well, to study well, to engage well with others. And when we take good care of our biology, that's going to have benefits in everything we do, including our writing. So Sam, why don't you lead us off when you think of ways of that you have to take care or try to take care of yourself physically in order to be the most productive and effective writer and author that you could be. What are some of the things that first come to your mind there?
Well, I want to back up a little bit and just agree with you. And I think even theologically, philosophically, like the idea that we are embodied spirits, like that we are not just minds or even spirits that are just like that use these bodies for a temporary kind of a thing, but that's not really it's not important. And when we die, our spirits will go, and that's really the important part of us. Like, no, we're both. There's a fake dope quote, a very non-dope quote, attributed to St. Louis, to Saint C.S. Lewis, who says, you are not a body, you are a spirit, you have a body. That it's kind of this idea, and it's just not true in two ways. It's He didn't say it, and it's not true. We are embodied spirits. That's what we are. That's part of the whole sort of hope of the resurrections. That the sundering of spirit and body um, are not right. It's not natural. It's not how we were designed, how we were made. We are embodied. That's what we are. So we bring our bodies. We are our bodies, and we bring that to our experience as a writer. And I love this topic of thinking about non-writing habits that help us as writers, because we think of so much of like craft and how do I do this sentence and how do I make this and what do I do about beginnings. That's all important stuff, but part of the whole experience is what is what we do as when we're not writing, and how we prepare and how we bring it to us. So I'm so interested. I'm fascinated by this topic, and I would say this has been an area of growth for me over the years as I've kind of shifted, and I'm getting older too. So taking care, like I want to be a good writer for a long time. And I also want to play with my grandkids someday. That's a big goal for me. So I want to do things that allow me to, I want to do things now that allow me to do things in the future that I want to do. So it's super important for me. And I mean, for me,
And just to clarify for our audience, I just wanna make Sam doesn't yet have grandkids, so it's
no,
not like he has grandkids that are waiting for him to play with them someday.
yeah,
He's
they're
hoping
just
by the
sitting there.
time that they're here, he will be able to play with them. Just in case everyone's like, "Oh, those poor grandkids just waiting for Sam to get healthy enough to play with them," so
They're on standby. They're in cages waiting for me to come and just. No, that's true. I'm trying to prepare for that, and that may be a different thing than like you're thinking of as a young writer. But it's my advice to you is that you can you can ignore the body only so long. You
well
could ignore the consequences of our actions, like or negative actions, for only so long.
Well, I would actually want to just say that if you are a young writer who starts thinking about this stuff and being intentional about caring well for your body at a young age, you are going to have such an advantage over people like Sam who didn't figure this out until they were, already old and grizzled. Uh,
It's true. I mean, that's why I tell my kids is just like, it's pick your pain. I was thinking the other day, I'm trying to do like more squats. There's this habit of, this is a good one. After you eat, there's the postprandial walk, which is a really valuable one. There's also the prandial related to meals. That's a big obtuse word. And when I could have used a clearer word, for sure, contradicting my earlier advice. But what you can do the postprandial squats, which are really, really valuable for you physically and mentally, actually. And I was thinking of, you are either going to suffer the pain of doing squats, or you're going to suffer the pain of doing diddly squat. And it's like, pick your poison, pick which one you want, and there's the common thing of like, you're going to spend the time in exercising in the gym, or you're going to spend time in the hospital. Like, which do you want? And it's not always as simple as that, but these are kind of like truisms. And I do think there's some value to it. And I would say that the walking, because writing is a sedentary activity. Usually some people are, taking walks and dictating, and that's pretty exciting if you can pull that off. I've never been able to do that. I sit and write, try to get comfortable, try to get my back, I have problems with my back and my neck, partly related to my career. So I have to walk, and walking has so many benefits physically. And I don't know about all the sort of the science behind it, but I know that it opens up the mind. It's a great creativity boost, and it's great for your health to take a walk. So I recommend
yeah.
walking regularly as a writer. Very, very important.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't know all the science either, but I know that this sort of, you know, gentle movement, over time, which walking is just it's very gentle on the body, but it's also allowing, your lymph to drain. There's this, constant little like bounce to it, that is helping your body um helping your circulation. You're having to have blood flow to every part of your body because your whole body is moving through space. And so, scientifically, we say that this is helping your body in these ways. And then just physically, you can feel better when you've moved, especially if you could get outside and you can. There's ways in which actually the way that objects move through your visual field as you walk is actually good for your brain and good for your eyes and good for your vision. So
Should we
yeah, there's so
qualify this, Brett, to how people when they're talking about, like, investments or something, they always say, like, "This is not investment
yeah,
advice." Like,
we are
I'm not
not
a certain
scientists or doctors. We just
Yeah.
get paid to act like them on our podcast.
Yeah, I would say the caveat for me is don't listen to if you're taking medical advice from me, you are wrong. Like, don't I am not qualified to give you medical advice, I will say, but
I think we're pretty safe with, like, you should go walk outside. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
pretty safe. I don't see a lot of lawsuits coming,
Okay.
but if, don't step in front of dangerous objects or
That's good.
cars,
That's a good
don't
one. That's
walk
point
in the
number
middle of
2.
the street,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
All the qualifications here,
It's a
to
very
keep yourself.
litigious it's a very litigious society we live in, Brett,
So walk outside in safe places, safe ways, but it's good for you. Like, and I mentioned some of those details not to say, and that's why you should do it, but just to say there's so much more going on than you realize when we do healthy things. It's you might not think, oh, walking outside is good for my eyes, it's good for my vision to preserve the health of my visual system. Well, actually, it is, and so there's so many benefits you're getting that you don't even realize when we take care of our bodies.
Well, mental health. I mean, exercise, the relationship with exercise and mental health is well documented. And that is, I mean, as a person who struggles sometimes with anxiety and that sort of a thing, like the movement is massively important. It has been for me and it has been for a lot of other people. So I think you're right. The compounding value of it's kind of that idea of like an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Of course, I love PG Woodhouse's quotation, which is an apple a day, if well aimed, keeps the doctor away. But the idea of habit sort of having this compounding value, that it's so much easier to if you do one, it's so much easier to do two and three than if you do if you this that every time you do one good thing, it's so much easier to do the next and the next good
Yeah.
thing. And when you do one so-called bad thing or unhelpful thing, it is so much easier to spiral in that direction too. And so there's a momentum to these kinds of things. So a walk is such a simple thing, and it may not be easy for you. You may be like, "Oh, that's not easy for me, and I can only do this amount." Like, that taking that step, it could be a real gateway to a lot of other things.
Yeah. No, I love that. So walking, which is a form of exercise, but then we've often also just mentioned exercise in general, and there's a lot of different types of exercise. And the fun thing about exercise is you can find the type of exercise that really resonates with you. Maybe you like to lift weights, maybe you like to run, maybe you like to play sports, maybe you like dance and other types of movement. But the idea of being able to challenge your body in a way that is productive. Again, there's this window between not challenging your body, which leads to atrophy and disease and ill health, and then challenging your body, but not so far that you're damaging your body, because you can go too far in that way. So the difference between being challenged and hurting yourself because you're pushing too hard, right? Find that sweet spot in the middle, and there's so many different ways to do it, but finding those is so important. And honestly, I just to give a crazy example, my wife Anna and I have got into uh, what's called ball work, which is uses those big exercise balls. You know what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Big bouncy
Like
exercise balls,
oh,
and we will balance on them. We'll balance
oh,
on them in different positions. And then we bought a course that like teaches you how to do it, and it's Anna is a dancer, and so she was working on some balance stuff, and so we got into this because of that, and I started doing it with her. It's a lot of fun, and it's crazy hard, and it's like totally obscure. But I'm sharing that just to say, hey, like you could, if you enjoy balancing on a exercise ball, like that could be a great way to exercise and work out um, for you. And so just enjoy the exploration as a young person. Find the types of movement that that make you feel good, and do that. It's going to help you as a writer, and certainly exercise has made a big difference for Sam and me.
Well, I think we can directly tie it to like a literary pursuit too. You could do the Jane Austen method, which is, taking long walks in the country, getting your petticoat muddy, like Elizabeth and Elizabeth Bennet. You could, and then the contra dancing, like the country dancing sort of a thing. That's a very invigorating, good for the heart. I think we could do a whole course on the Jane Austen diet, the Jane Austen body, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I think this could be the next big thing. Right. We could,
I'm,
and the
I'm going to
diet would
kill
be,
this. I'm going to
what,
kill this right now, Sam. I'm sorry.
but you didn't let me get to the diet part, which is what excellent boiled potatoes. That's what you eat the whole time is just excellent boiled potatoes. I think our Jane
Yeah,
Austen fans are going to love that.
I'm still killing this idea.
Oh,
Um, let's talk about another thing. I'm curious, Sam, what you found in terms of the importance of sleep,
mm.
and taking care of your sleep as it relates to being a effective writer.
Yeah. I mean, so I think what I keep hearing from people is, and I think it's wisdom that's passed down from generations ago, the importance of sleep. And there's a kind of a theological component too, that Victor Hugo says, in Les Mis, go to sleep, God is at work. There's a kind of a dependency there. I think that the overachievers, the type A's, might be like, I don't need to sleep, I need to keep working. And there's certainly warnings in the scripture about sloth and that kind of a thing. But I think we can overdo that in a sort of a very competitive culture that's, American culture is very independent, very like go get them, which I love in so many ways. But we can overdo that in a way that we rely on our own ability to control and our ability to kind of like just run things all the time. And what we need is what we're designed for. Going back to Genesis, is we're designed for rest. We're designed for Sabbath. We're designed for sleep every night and for sort of giving up control of the world, giving it back to God in humility. And I think so. I think there's this sort of ancient wisdom around sleep and Sabbath. And then I hear a lot of people describing sleep as like a super drug that, if you could bottle it up and sell it, you would be a trillionaire, if you could sell that. And we all have access to it all the time. And I've taken steps personally because I've been so bad at it. I don't know if you might relate to this in the audience, or I don't know if you do, Brett, but my mind, as a sort of a natural world builder, a natural storyteller, it is going. It is just going, 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 going. So when I lay down at night, often it is just still like alive, alive, alive. And it's so hard for me to get my mind and my body in sync. Something that's helped with that is certain kinds of audiobooks really help for me to go to sleep. Something that's not, it can't be nonfiction where I'm trying to think of solutions to things. It needs to be a story that I can get lost in. And there's particular kinds of stories that work better for me. But emphasizing sleep has been a massive, massive benefit for me. I got this is not a sponsorship or anything, but I got the Whoop band, which tracks sleep. So I'm trying to pay attention to it in a sense of like, oh, I actually know what I'm doing and where my recovery is, that sort of thing. So that's been a big step for me. Very, very important.
Yeah,
Sleep, sleeping.
a dope quote I've heard is what we measure
Yes.
improves. So when
Yes.
we keep track of things like how much sleep am I getting, how rested am I feeling when I wake up, and then we have all these smartwatches and wristbands and things, that kind of help us to measure that, and it can really help us improve our sleep. I would just say that one of the things about sleep, in addition to the theological side of like giving up that control to God and trusting Him and resting in His, He's taking care of things even when we're asleep. I also think that actually there's so much happening in the body while we're asleep. There's so much repair, recovery, and building of, it's like we've talked about exercise and we've talked about challenging when we challenge ourselves. Well, if you're thinking about your book and you're really like trying to solve some problem with the world building or a character arc or plot hole that you're trying to fix, if you're thinking about that during the day and then you actually get a good night's sleep, your brain is working on that problem while you sleep. If you exercise and challenge your muscles, you don't get better, stronger muscles by exercising. You get stronger muscles by exercising and then sleeping and giving your body that chance to repair. And also, there needs to be adequate nutrition, and because the body's going to use those building blocks to build the new muscle and strengthen things. But it's actually the sleep where the body's doing all of that, building all of that, figuring things out. And so it's amazing to actually view sleep as a productive thing. It's one of the most productive things we can do, and it's where all the things we've been thinking about and working on throughout the day starts to be integrated and brought together.
One of the
So
most productive things we can do.
yeah.
Talk about that. That is so counter cul I mean, the way that I feel like growing up in the '80s and, back when I was alive, there was definitely this emphasis on, go get them, and that was definitely like sleep was definitely an enemy of productivity, and you're saying like the opposite of that.
Well, I'll share a story actually of my time in college because I was in my junior year. I became a RA, resident assistant. So I was in charge of a wing of the dorms, which really meant I had to inspect the rooms to make sure that people were cleaning routinely, and I was a resource for the students. And we would
You were
have
the bad guy in every story.
weekly.
I
I
got
did
it. Yeah.
lead a weekly chapel and things like that for the
Okay.
wing.
Okay.
So. Uh, but one of the things that we talked about as a wing, and it was probably about 18 guys or so in this wing, we talked about the importance of sleep. And this was a college. I went to a college that was very academically rigorous. A lot of students would be straight A students in high school and then come here and they're really struggling to keep up. And you just see a lot of students with those their energy drinks, and they're staying up all hours of the night, pulling all nighters to try to get stuff done. And really talked to the guys in my wing. We talked together about the importance of getting enough sleep as actually a key to be able to perform well in school. And we didn't all track our sleep, but on average, I think our wing was getting a solid 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night, and which is was substantially more than a lot of a lot of our peers throughout campus were getting. And we ended up having the highest GPA average of any wing on campus, and the most students selected to the who's who list on campus, which is just kind of a recognition of students who are doing cool things. So you know we had probably the most sleep of any wing and the best grades of any wing. And I actually think that is tied together because I think it was getting adequate sleep, getting adequate rest that was allowing our minds to be fresh, allowing us to be more productive in the time we were studying, to retain more of what we were studying, and just all sorts of benefits. So that's why I would say yes. I think getting enough sleep is more productive than not getting enough sleep and trying to put more of those hours into working and creating
Mhm.
and doing things because it's
I
the
totally
sleep.
agree with you.
Oh yeah.
I heard the same thing. I heard of a study that was done on a college basketball team where they had like all things being equal, they were trying to think about how to improve performance or whatever, and the only thing they changed was they started tracking sleep and they started intentionally sleeping more as a team. And it was sort of like they had this sort of A/B test, and all the points went up, the rebounds went up, the energy went up. It was like all those things, and it was, you don't think about that as a team. And I certainly didn't think about that when I was playing basketball in high school or my small college. And I'm gonna think about the night what I would stay up half the night reading and that kind of a thing. So yeah, and that's so sleep is a massive superpower, and I think there are a lot of different kind of things we've talked about. There's probably other things you can list, and feel free to list them, Brett. Now, I wonder if we should what I would love to do is invite the folks in the audience to pick one thing. It can feel overwhelming to like, I hear all this thing, or if you're on social media, you're seeing 5,000 different, like, this dye is going to kill you and your toothpaste is terrible, and if you don't wake up at this time and you have to do 50 squats and you have to do and this guy's telling me I got to sleep all the time and this guy's telling me I got to like, it can be overwhelming, and I get that. But like, my challenge to me, I don't know if you can come up with a clever one like you did for the 100 and 100 100 days of writing 100 words, but maybe it's 100 days of one habit. Maybe it's one habit for 100 days. Try one good thing, whatever that is. If that's, I'm going to try to average 7 hours of sleep this week. I'm going to take this amount of walk. I'm going
I
to
would
take this
actually
amount
say
of step.
for young people, the average, it probably should be 8 hours plus.
That's true. That's
It's
true.
actually the younger you are, the more you need that
That's
sleep.
right.
And so 8, 9 hours a night is really important.
That's
And
right.
for some of you, with health issues, it could be need to be even more than that. And so just being able to listen to your body there and
Yeah.
get the sleep you need. You'll do more in the hours you have awake if you're getting enough sleep. But yeah, I think my dad always taught us that it takes 21 days to build a new habit. So if you do something
Mm,
consistently for 21 days, then you've established a habit, and probably bump that up to 30 days, a whole month is probably a
yeah.
good idea. But even just picking one habit for a month and say,
Mm,
for this month, I want to focus in on sleep or doing some movement for half an hour a day. So maybe it's 30 for 30 minutes of movement exercise every day for 30
great.
days, and just see how that affects your energy, your mood, all these things. Or
You
yeah,
could try
maybe
the Jane Austen method too. I mean, I think that's another
yeah,
option out there
if
is just,
you want to be weird like Sam, you could do the Jane Austen plan.
But
uh,
here's my challenge is do that. Do the 30 for 30. That's excellent. And then tell us if it improved your writing.
yeah,
Like, it's gonna improve a lot of things in life, I think, and it's gonna have that compounding kind of a thing, and I would love to hear that. I would love to hear, but yeah, what does it improve your writing? And my contention is it will, because you have more mental capacity, you have more energy, and I think we underestimate how important that is as we come to our writing. We underestimate our non-writing habits and our non-writing life as we come to writing, and I think it feels like there's a lot of material there. Maybe we'll revisit it again
yeah.
down the road.
Yeah, it reminds me of the dope quotation, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
And so if we're not taking good care of our bodies, we're not taking good care of other things too. And it's affecting us in so many ways we don't even realize.
And I would say don't hear that as judgment. Don't hear
Yeah.
that as like I don't hear that as like condemnation, because that would
So
be an easy thing too.
I was trying to condemn our audience.
I know you were. That's I'm trying to save them. I didn't come to condemn the world. No, but we don't feel. I think you can easily hear. I mean, I hear topics of like, oh, this person's doing this perfect kind of a thing, and this person has the perfect abs and everything. And like, don't. It's not about comparison. It really isn't. It's the same for creativity and for other areas of life. It's about building for yourself where you are, beginning where you are. You cannot get where you want to get without beginning where you are. So start where you are and do one thing, one little thing. Do not hear condemnation, hear invitation, hear an opportunity, hear a pathway. And if I would joke, I mean, it would be a joke for me to say that I've got all this figured out and I'm really the perfect kind of, I am not. I am learning. I have so many bad habits. But I'm working on it. I'm trying. I'm going for it. And I think that's the invitation is just like when I think Brett gives really good advice about if you have writer's block or you're feeling that kind of a thing, like the sort of like the dishes analogy of like just do one dish and see how that and then maybe you move on to the next dish. Like that's how you get the dishes done. It's hard to do them all in your mind, but you can do one. It's hard to write a whole book, but you can write a sentence. You can probably write a paragraph. And it's the same thing with these habits. I think you just try to do one little thing, take one little walk, and it can be very, very, very small, and it's not insignificant, especially if you build a habit of it, even if it's very, very small.
I love that. So good. And yes, I think I'm glad we got on record that Sam has so many bad habits and is doing everything poorly, because that's been my observation.
The next episode will be listing all of those. I
Yeah,
think
all
stay
the
tuned for that.
things not to do based on Sam's life.
It's a perfect bad example. That's my next nonfiction book after eisegeting Aristotle. I'm going to go into all the perfect bad habits by S.D. Smith.
Perfect. Well, Sam, would you pray for our audience here as we close and just pray a blessing over them?
Our Father, you are the great giver of life, and we have nothing apart from you. A man cannot receive even one thing unless it is given to him from heaven. Our brother St. John the Baptist said, and it's true. We need you and all our folks in the audience, all the people, these folks that we love and want to serve, they need you. We all need you, and we need your help. And thank you for loving us. Thank you for being a father, the father that we all long for to us. Thank you for giving us so much. Thank you for giving us life and breath and energy and even with the challenges that we have, the capacity to grow and learn. And I pray for our audience that they would be and we would be, all of us, people who would continue to grow and to learn and to live and to love. Um, I pray that you would help us to have good habits that help us to be more sustainable, and to bring more energy, more longevity to our careers as writers. I pray that you would bless us in that way, especially for these young writers. I pray that you would give them really, really good gifts, and you would bless them from on high. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of The Green Writer.
Thanks for listening.
Now would be a good time to subscribe so you don't miss a new episode.
And then share this episode with a friend.
We believe in you,
and we're on your side.